Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome to the 2017 Great Debate. My name is Eleanor Tsai, and I'm the Vice President of Education of the Penn State Economics Association. We have a great debate planned for you tonight. The question that the two teams will be debating is liberalizing international trade essential to achieving prosperity?
Hello, I'm Russell Chenowitz, and I am a proud advisor of the Penn State Economics Association.
And the gains due to the competitive advantage are distributed unequally and do not promote prosperity. But what will shock you is the fact that we are producing enough grains to feed twice the amount of population in this entire world. 85% of Ethiopia's population is starving because all their grains are being fed to the cattle, which are then being distributed for international trade with the developed countries like UK, US, and Europe. Well, with all this, liberalizing trade policies is also going to create a massive job loss.
Trade liberalization maximizes the benefits of comparative advantage. So comparative advantage has forced these workers out of agriculture onto manufacturing. As a result, these workers then benefited from a very decent standard of living due to the increased demand for exports. And so their living standards increased, and so total productivity had increased of those resources, as these resources are now very productively used. So if countries indeed want to succeed and prosper, there is no alternative for them but to liberalize international trade.
Jobs aren't as mobile as Team Nap would like you to believe. So the people that are unemployed as a result of trade liberalization can't necessarily become reemployed in a quick amount of time. We see that all we know is that as countries get richer, they dismantle trade restrictions, not that they get richer because they liberalize trade. But trade liberalization, like cheap butter on soggy toast, does not spread its benefits equally.
Look, the bottom line is cheap butter is better than no butter, right? And at the end of the day, when you're looking at what we're talking about with trade liberalization, it's about countries having access to goods that they otherwise wouldn't have. And it drives global prices down so that it makes it easier for everyone in the world to afford goods. As a matter of fact, we are doing such a good job eradicating poverty by making goods easier to purchase that USA predicts with a 95% confidence interval that global extreme poverty either ends or falls below 20% by 2030.
And the problem is not with the theory of trade itself, it's with poor implementation by politicians. I know that domestically there will be concentrated costs for a few individuals in the short run, but there will be a vast greater benefit to the larger majority of people in the long run. Overall, the liberalization of trade will create opportunity for an unprecedented opportunity for economic gains and prosperity.
Structural unemployment does happen, and it happens because of technological advancement. We all know that. Certain industries are put out of business. But our argument is that the liberalization of free trade hastens the structural unemployment by shipping whole industries overseas. Okay, so no problem with that. It happens anyway, but we're arguing that the liberalization of free trade policy is going to only worsen the situation. Let's see, all policies have costs. You argue that the theory behind it is good, but we're having trouble with the implementation. Well, if we can't implement these problems correctly, then how can we carry on forward with this liberalization of free trade? There's got to be a cost to solving those types of problems that has to be included in the analysis. So you can't just say, let's fix the implementation problem and then everything will go away, when that in and of itself is one of the costs.
David Ricardo was a gentleman who came up with the principle of comparative advantage, which clearly states that his principle is only sustainable if his underlying assumptions are met. One of those primary assumptions without which comparative advantage is not really sustainable in the long run is the assumption of costless labor mobility. Labor mobility just doesn't exist as in this current situation. The Labor Department assessment found that 4 years after completing training, only 37% of those employed were working in their targeted industries. Now, many of those enrolled had lower incomes than even those who simply signed up for unemployment benefits. So retraining labor mobility go out the window before, retraining and labor mobility basically go out the window.
If you want to make an omelet, sometimes you gotta break some eggs, right? Do you want the shells that you cracked to make the omelet at the end of it? No, you don't. And ultimately, what we're looking at with trade liberalization is increased competition. That's a good thing. A lot of the problems that come from, that they claim come from our side are inherent to capitalism itself. So unless you want to fix the problems of capitalism inherently, you're never going to fix the problem anyway. Is that income inequality doesn't track with prosperity. And if you want to call low income inequality prosperity, then you're calling countries like Venezuela, Cuba, and North Korea prosperous.
However, history is littered with examples of those who have made the same mistake as them. The mistakes of ignoring benefits of trade liberalization. Today, the common theme of every argument they made was to paint China as a rival to our prosperity. So please, let me tell you the story of China. With 36% of its GDP coming from international trade, China has developed marvelously. Life expectancy has gone up by 30 years and now is almost the same as the United States. Literacy rate has gone up by an astounding 41%. And best of all, 3/4 of Chinese have access to clean drinking water. What changed all this, ladies and gentlemen? It was liberalization of trade. We have seen an increase in prosperity across many, many variables, all thanks to liberalization of trade.
What the other team just did is they came up here, they showed you some scary numbers, then they showed you some great numbers, and they said that trade came in between. What everyone who's taken a statistics class before knows that correlation and causation are not the same thing. If you don't believe that, let me give you an example. The murder rate in the US has gone down dramatically over the last 30 years. And over that same period of time, the market share of Internet Explorer has gone down by about the same amount. Internet Explorer doesn't lead to murder. But more importantly, it was economic reforms that led to increased productivity that accounted for most of China's growth, rather than the growth in capital. So as the other team said, two things happened: increased investment in education and increased trade. It's the education that made the difference, not the trade. And when it comes to trade liberalization, the biggest externality we have to talk about is the impact of free trade on the environment. One of the most egregious examples of how free trade hurts the environment is the phenomenon of dolphin bycatch. To this date, more than 6 million dolphins have died as a consequence of tuna fishing. So to include, not only does trade liberalization lead to environmental harms that can cause irreparable damage for generations to come, it also makes the life-saving medicines that will become increasingly more necessary due to the environmental destruction less and less accessible to those who need it the most. So for these reasons, trade liberalization is not our yellow brick road.
It would be really useful if we have a laboratory to see where this is actually happening today. And we do. And it's called Venezuela. They have the largest known resource of oil of any country in the world. They are suffering triple-digit inflation that is eroding their standard of living. In the last year, 74% of individuals in that country have lost 19 pounds because they are waiting in line to get food. If they would open their borders, not only to trade, but the financial flow of capital across their borders, and liberalize the entire picture of economic activity, people in their country would not be suffering to the extent that they are today. So which future do you want? One that rises everybody up, even if it is problematic, or one that crushes everybody equally? That's the story. That's what you have to vote on.
Together a little song for you to kind of sum up our arguments, and that was a very nice speech, Colin.